Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to our Caspio Labs. I am hearing an echo on my end. I don't know if you guys are able to hear me. If you are, let me know. Just a quick housekeeping item, as we always do. Loud and clear. I'm hearing my own echo. I don't know why. This is the first time I hear my own echo. It's just overriding my voice. Nothing on your end. It's just on my end, but it's not pleasant. I'm trying to figure out how to turn that off. Let me see if it's doing it again. And it is. I keep hearing myself, and it's just making it worse for myself here on my end because I have to speak over myself. Well, let me try it and see how it goes. Hopefully it won't be too bad on my end. Let's see what happens. Yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Caspio Lab, another episode. Today we're going to be talking about the progress bar in a multi-step form and how in Caspio we can go about doing that. And I've come up with a very simple and elegant solution. Hopefully you'll feel the same way. Using a little bit of HTML and CSS, we can create that progress bar on the very top. And then as you go from one form to another, you're going to be able to see that progress bar increase until the very end when you submit the final step of the form. And why are these multi-step forms so useful is because you don't want to overwhelm the end user when they're filling out one form, because one form can be very lengthy and it's just have too many fields to fill out, before you finally make your submission. But if you divvy up that form into multiple steps, it makes it easier for the end user to go through the process of filling out the form and finally making that one last submission. All right, now I stopped talking. My echo did. So let me know if you have any questions before I begin. I'm going to show you a live example of what I've created for today's class. I will say one thing. There are many ways of creating the progress bar on the top. This is typically how I do it, but you could also you can call it step 1, step 2, step 3, and then you can also go back and forth between the steps. I didn't do that today, but if you guys have a specific need for your multi-step form, we can definitely do one more session, and we can do something a little bit more advanced where we can have these back and forth buttons where you go from one step to another and navigate back and forth between each of the data pages. This one here is a little bit more complex. It uses quite a bit of JavaScript, so I didn't want to overwhelm you with that solution, so I came up with a simple one. But if that's not going to give you what you're looking for, definitely let me know in the comments section or send me an email, and we will do one more class to do something a little bit more dynamic or maybe a little bit more sophisticated. All right, so let's take a look at my form. We have 4 steps. Step 1, I'm at 25%. Now that I think about it, I should have probably had like 5% or maybe 0% because it's step 1. But it's up to you how you define these percentages as you move in each step of the form. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to just provide an email here. I'll confirm that email. Let's just do username ned0123. We'll create a simple password, test123. That doesn't really matter. And then when we hit continue, we're going to go to step 2, and then you will see how that increases to 50%. And step 2 is personal information. You fill this out. We'll just fill out anything, hit continue. Then we go to step 3 at 75%. And now none of these are required, so I can just fill out anything, hit continue. And finally, we have the terms and conditions where we can scroll up and down and check to indicate that you have read, hit submit, and you're done. Okay. So most of you know how to build data pages. Today we're going to learn how to connect them and how to put this progress bar at the very top. And actually it's very, very simple. Let me cancel out of that. And I have 5 different data pages here, step 1 through 4. And I put my terms inside an HTML data page, and you'll see how I'm rendering that on the final data page, step 4. I'm using iframe to have that scrolling up and down effect, which basically pulls the information from the HTML block. So I'll show you this data page first. Here I have all of my terms. Okay. And we'll come back to that later. But for now, let's go to our table. We'll click on design. And these are the fields that I have. Okay, so you might have more fields depending on what information you're collecting. I don't know how many I have, maybe 15. But I'm including a few of them in the step 1, then I'll have step 2, step 3, and then step 4, and then the agree to terms, which is the final step. So that's my table. I always have my unique key at the very top. I have a username field. I made that unique, password field, and the rest of the info. Let's go to data pages now, and let's take a look at step 1. So the very first data page needs to be a submission form. And then the subsequent data pages will be update forms. And you'll see how I connect that together. So you create the submission form. I use my table as my data source. I named it step 1. I have my style. I have my localization. We're going to hit next. And then I included 3 fields in step 1. So here you're going to choose what fields you would like to have in step 1 of your entire form. Okay, so I chose these 3. And now let's take a look at my header. You guys have seen me done this multiple times in the past in like previous live sessions. I use a simple style to center my form. That's why you can see that the form is centered. Actually, why don't we go back to step 1? Now that I think about it, maybe I should have created a navigation so that we can quickly go back to step 1 as opposed to me clicking back on the browser here, which isn't really the most user-friendly UX. I have my W3 Schools library. I've mentioned this in the past. I use this website quite a bit to pull HTML and CSS and JavaScript and manipulate it inside a data page. And all I'm doing here is I'm clicking try it yourself. I found a solution for the progress bar. And what I've done is taken the class, the library. So I copy that link. Okay. I paste that here in the very top of my header. And inside the HTML block, I have my just a simple heading here, step 1 account information. You can see that at the very top. And then underneath that is the progress bar, which you will see now pulls the class, okay, from that library that I pasted in the header of my data page. And here you can modify if you want that to be 25% on the progress bar, and you can choose what label you would like to have displayed up here. I could also display that to be step 1 instead of 25%, but I'll just go with 25 just to keep everything consistent. And that's how you create a very simple progress bar. Now, the next step is what you need to do is you need to have all of your other data pages created as well. So you need to have the step 2 created. And then what you do is you go to a data page and you choose step 2 data page. In other words, when you submit the form here, it's going to go to step 2, which is the second data page. So let's take a look at step 2. And you just create a chain after that. You're going to connect to step 3, and then you're going to connect to step 4. But the second data page, you will see that it's a single record update. Because when you submit the form on step 1, you want to update the row in the table. You don't want to submit a new record as you submit the second step. Okay? Now, one thing that I did forget to show you, let me go back to step 1. Make sure you have this checkbox checked on exit past the ID. So when you submit the form, you want to submit or pass the user ID to step 2. And then on step 2, you're going to receive that ID. So here, find a record through unique ID. So you're going to pass that ID to step 2. And then parameter name, insert record user ID. Okay, you're going to have to type this in. Okay. By default, it's going to look like that. You just have to type insert record user ID. Now you're going to include the fields you like to have in step 2. And then just modify the heading. So here above, you're going to see step 2, personal information. I chose to go up to 50%. And then when you submit the form, then it's going to go to step 3. Let's take a look at step 3. Also update form. Insert record user ID. Include the fields you want to have in step 3, and then you just modify your progress bar. You want that to go up to 75%. Let me take a look at my question here. What would happen if a user closes form at step 2 and then returns back in the same time to finalize? How to ensure the system redirects the user to step 2 instead of... So in this use case that I put together, they will have to start over. Okay, unless they finish everything. Another way to approach this is to have a user register, log in, and then you have update forms for that user to fill out. That's another way of going about this. In that case, you don't have to worry about user leaving on step 2 and coming back and starting over, because when they log in, all of that information is going to be saved to their account and to their user ID. Okay. And that is usually typically my recommendation, because the registration form is usually a few fields. And then when they log in, now you can have them complete their entire profile, which you can divvy up into multiple steps. You can have personal information, you might have education, you might have company info, and those are all going to be update forms. And as soon as they update, it saves to their account ID. Okay, so then the next time they log in, all that information will be saved, and they don't have to start over. So just to give you an example, let me see if I can come back to one of my live examples here. Let's go to my sales application here. Give me a second. Let me log in just so you know what I'm talking about. If I log in as a specific user, and I go to my profile, here you could have tabs. Okay. And the first tab can be maybe account info. The second tab can be personal info, company info, and these are all going to be update forms. And as soon as they update the form, it's going to be saved to their account. Next time they log in and they go to profile, it's all going to be saved within their profile view. Okay. And then on the browser, they don't have to start over if it's a public-facing form. Let me know if there's a follow-up on that question. If there is some way to save it, I'm thinking you can save it maybe to a browser, but I need to check to see what I will need to do to go about doing that. So that way the information is pre-filled if they come back. Okay, so let me finish everything that I was showing you guys today. We have 75%. Okay. I'm also going to share this link if you guys want to use that same solution as we're looking at today. So I'll give you guys that link. And this is very easy to copy and paste into your data page and reproduce in your account. Let's hit next. Then we go to step 4. That's the final step. And you will see how I'm actually including the HTML block inside the iframe. So same thing. All right, so iframe, src, and I'm using the direct URL link to that HTML data page where we have our terms of service and terms of use. Okay, then we have the height and the width of the iframe, and I've enabled the scrolling, and I set that to yes. Okay, so what this is doing, it's basically pulling that information in step 4. And we'll take a look at that. I made all of these fields required, so I have to fill them in before I go to step 4. We hit continue. So these two don't need to. Okay, I'm good here. And now you're going to be able to see that scrolling up and down to see the terms. Okay. Let me see if I can maybe remove the border. See if that works. Border equals none. Finish. Reload. Oh, I'll need to figure out how to remove this border, but there is a way to remove that border. But I actually don't mind it. It closes in all of my terms nicely. Okay. So as I said, you could also have text that says step 1 through 4, and you can use some simple HTML technique to highlight that text depending on the step that you're on. If you're step 1, step 2, step 3, you can create those steps to be links so that people can go back and forth between each step. Okay. If you guys would like to see something a little bit more advanced, we can definitely have a class on this. It requires JavaScript to accomplish, but it's doable. Okay, I just didn't want to overwhelm you. I wanted to give you a simple solution. Hopefully that will work for you guys. If not, if there's something more complex that you're looking for, let me know. Please let me know and we will do another session. Now for next week, we're going to be building a lost and found application. Okay, because of the crisis that we're experiencing today in Ukraine, Caspio is offering a free plan to anyone who's looking to build applications to help with the crisis in Ukraine. So your plan will be free and you can build these applications at no cost. And one of the applications that we're building from scratch on Monday next week is Lost and Found. Okay, so it's not going to be pre-built. I'm going to actually build everything from start to finish. So if you're curious to see how that's done, please join me next week. I know I promised we were going to do the PDF template generation. We are still going to do that the following week, but I had to reprioritize due to what's happening in the world today. And I think this has more merit and more importance. So we're going to do that before we do document generation. So Tracy, if you're here, I apologize. I know I promised you that. It's just going to be delayed one more week, okay? Yeah, we do have our development team. We have over 80 people in Ukraine. A lot of them are now in Poland. I know a lot of people have relocated. Even our CEO is in Poland right now helping with relocation. So we're doing everything that we can to get our team out of there. That's all the information that I have. But thankfully everyone is safe. All the families are safe. And we are still operating at 100% despite everything that's going on. Katie would like to see a more complex step form. No problem. We will include that. I think what I might be able to do is, if I have the time next week, I can offer that at the end of the live stream next week and show you how this is done. I may just provide you with the solution so that you can download it. I always like to do that so that you guys can import it into your account and see how it was done. It is a bit challenging and technical, much more than what we looked at today, but hopefully you guys are going to be able to decipher it and know how to implement it. Let me take a look. For example, FB serve, welcome back. For example, if the user provides value 1 in the form, it will go to data page A. But if they provide 2, then it will go to data page B. Oh, okay, so you want something a bit more conditional then. Okay, I've done that before. We can definitely include something like that as well. Okay. And the way I do that is a very simple drop down with virtual fields. And a virtual field will have a different URL. And then you include that in the destination. So when you do submit, it'll go to that URL depending maybe in the drop down or value they added in a text field or something like that. And not necessarily JavaScript to redirect, because I have done something like this before using standard features as well. Yeah, I think we're all done with today's content. Short and sweet. I will make my data pages downloadable in the description, as I always do. Just give me a little bit of time to do that. And if you'd like to see the progress loading bar, even though it's super easy to implement, you can download all of my data pages and see how I did it. Correct. Correct. So imagine a drop-down, and in that drop-down you have maybe departments, maybe marketing and sales. And each department as a value is a different URL. Then in the destination, you can have that URL, depending on the selection in the dropdown. So when you hit submit, it's going to go to that URL in that dropdown. Because you can use the virtual field in the destination field. Simple trick. There are a lot of these little tricks like that you can use without having to use JS. Yeah. Maybe we can now, we've answered that question for next week. By the way, I was off all of the last week. I was on vacation, so if you did send me an email, I apologize. I did not reply back. If you guys get a chance to go to Utah, I definitely recommend it. It was my first time. I got to see the Arches National Park, the Salt Flats. It was really amazing just to see the vast emptiness. And if you like to drive fast, there's no speed limit on the Salt Flats. You can go as fast as you want. It was a lot of fun. My wife called me an Instagram husband for the first time because I was taking so many pictures, you know. But usually I'm the one who's the Instagram husband, but not this way around. It's pretty funny. Take notes? Yeah, I'm happy you guys are learning something new every week. Okay? Thank you so much for coming back. I know a few of you who keep returning to my live streams. I really appreciate it. It really does mean a lot. So hopefully we can grow the community and get more people here and, yeah, get Caspio out there for more people to learn about and utilize for their own needs. So I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you so much. I hope to see you next week. We're going to be building an app from scratch. It's going to be a lost and found type application. Many of us are familiar with that type of application, especially you might have an internal tool that does that. If an employee lost something, you know, you can have a database where people can find lost items, and then you can also report a lost item for other people to find. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day. Have a good week. And I will definitely see you next Monday. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.